The twin suns of the desert planet burned high in the sky, their light turning the endless sand dunes into waves of golden fire. Jordan wiped sweat from his brow and adjusted the straps of his backpack. His boots crunched through the hot sand as he searched for anything valuable among the ruins. Jordan wasn't a hero. He wasn't rich or famous or powerful. He was just a scavenger, someone who looked for old technology and forgotten treasures left behind by ancient alien civilizations. Today, he had wandered farther than usual. His water supply was running low, and the wind carried a sharp heat that bit his skin. But something told him to keep going. Then he saw it, a strange shimmer in the sand, like metal catching the sunlight. He dropped to his knees and began to dig with his hands. The sand was hot, but he didn't stop. Bit by bit, the object came into view. It wasn't large, about the size of a loaf of bread, and shaped like a curved metallic bottle with strange patterns etched into its surface. The designs weren't human, and the metal felt warm, even though it had been buried. Jordan turned it over in his hands. It pulsed gently, almost like it was alive. Curious, he brushed off more sand and gave the bottle a small rub with his cloth. The ground trembled. Jordan stumbled back as a column of soft blue light shot out from the bottle. The air rippled. A strange humming sound filled his ears, followed by a sudden silence that was too perfect, too still. Then she appeared. Floating just above the sand was a beautiful woman. At least she looked mostly human. Her skin had a soft pale blue tint with a hint of purple. Her hair was long and silver, flowing like water in the air. Small, elf-like ears peeked through her hair, and her large eyes sparkled like stars. She wore a flowing dress of teal and gold, unlike anything Jordan had ever seen. For a moment, Jordan was frozen. He had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but nothing like this. She opened her mouth and spoke, her voice calm and clear, with a strange musical tone. "You have summoned me, human," she said. "I am Nahara, spirit of the lamp. You are granted 3 wishes. Speak them wisely." Jordan blinked. "Wait, are you serious?" Nahara nodded. "I am bound by ancient law." You rubbed the lamp. "You awakened me. You have 3 wishes." Jordan looked at the lamp, then at her. "So, I can wish for anything." "Almost anything," Nahara replied. "Wealth, power, a kingdom of your own. Speak your desire." Jordan thought for a long moment. The desert wind whispered around them. The suns burned above, but he didn't feel their heat anymore. His mind wasn't racing with thoughts of gold or spaceships or castles. Instead, he looked at Nahara, really looked at her. She was beautiful, yes, but there was something else, something hidden behind her graceful appearance. Her eyes looked tired, sad, like someone who had seen too much and had no one to talk to. Then Jordan spoke. "I wish," he said, slowly and clearly, "for you to be free." Nahara's body froze midair. Her glowing eyes widened in shock. "What did you say?" Jordan stepped forward. "I wish for you to be free. You shouldn't be trapped in a bottle, serving strangers forever." "That's not right." The air around Nahara pulsed. The wind stopped. The light from her body flickered. "No one," she said quietly, "no one has ever wished that before." Her voice trembled. For the first time in her long life, someone had not asked for treasure or strength, but for her freedom. "But if you do this," she continued, "you will lose your other 2 wishes. You will gain nothing." Jordan smiled. "Maybe. But maybe helping someone matters more than wishes." For a few moments, Nahara said nothing. Then she raised her arms. A burst of light shot into the sky, and the chains around her wrists, shimmering symbols of her bond to the lamp, snapped and disappeared into dust. Nahara gasped and fell to her knees in the sand. Her body shook, not from weakness, but from emotion. She was free. Truly free. Jordan took a step closer. "Are you okay?" Nahara looked up at him, Her eyes filled with tears that sparkled like stars. "I don't understand you," she whispered. "What kind of human gives up power for me?" Jordan offered her a hand and smiled. "The kind who believes everyone deserves a choice." The wind howled gently through the desert, carrying fine grains of sand across the dunes. The sky had begun to change color, from bright gold to soft orange. Jordan sat next to Nahara, who was still on her knees in the sand, staring at her hands. She turned her palms over, again and again, as if trying to understand her own body. She no longer glowed. The soft light that had once surrounded her had faded. The golden cuffs that once marked her as a genie had disappeared. She was free. But to Nahara, freedom felt strange. It was something she had never known, not even in her earliest memories. Her entire life had been inside the lamp, appearing only when summoned, obeying every command, then fading away again. Now, that cycle was broken, and the one who broke it was a human. Jordan noticed her silence. "Hey," he said gently, "are you all right?" Nahara blinked and looked at him. Her eyes, which once sparkled with magical light, now looked softer and more real. "I don't know," she said. "I feel different." "You're free," Jordan reminded her. "You can go anywhere, do anything." "But I don't know who I am," she said, her voice quiet. "I was created to serve. I've never made a choice on my own." Jordan stood and offered his hand again. "Then maybe it's time to start." Nahara hesitated. She had never been helped before, never been treated like a person. Slowly, she took his hand. It felt warm, steady, kind. Together, they walked through the cooling desert toward Jordan's camp. His shelter was simple, a small tent made of metal panels, with a power cell that barely worked. There was a half-broken robot that used to help with digging, and a table covered in old tech parts. Nahara looked around, curious. "You live here?" Jordan smiled. "It's not much, but yeah, it's home." She walked slowly through the camp, touching things gently. Everything here was real. Not summoned, not created by magic, but built by hands. It fascinated her. "You're not like the others," she said softly. "Others?" "The ones who used the lamp before," she explained. "They always asked for more. More gold, more ships, more power. You're the first to ask for less." Jordan laughed. "Well, I've never been great at following the crowd." They sat by a small heat lamp as the sun dipped below the dunes. The night brought a cold chill, and Jordan offered her a blanket. She took it and wrapped herself carefully. "What will you do now?" she asked. "I'll keep scavenging," he said. "Try to find something valuable enough to trade. Maybe save enough to leave this planet one day." She tilted her head. "Why don't you wish for those things? You had 2 wishes left." "I didn't need them," Jordan replied. "Besides, helping you felt more important." Nahara stared at him, still surprised. "No one has ever helped me without asking for something in return." Jordan looked into the stars above. "Well, maybe it's time someone did." Silence fell for a moment, calm and peaceful. Then Nahara spoke again, her voice thoughtful. "When I was still bound to the lamp, I used to dream. I saw things, cities, forests, oceans, but I was never allowed to go. I want to see the world." "You can," Jordan said. "You're free now. The galaxy is yours to explore." "But I don't know how," she said. "I don't know how to live like you do." Jordan looked at her with a smile. "Then stay with me, just for a while. I'll show you." She blinked. "You would do that?" "Of course," he said. "Everyone has to start somewhere." A soft wind blew across the desert again. For the first time in her life, Nahara didn't feel lost. She didn't feel trapped. She was still unsure, still scared, but she wasn't alone. That night, she watched Jordan fix a broken transmitter with his bare hands. She watched him smile when the device sparked to life. No magic, just effort, hard work. It amazed her. Jordan glanced at her and chuckled. "You're staring." She looked away quickly. "Sorry." "It's all right," he said. "You're welcome to stay as long as you like. Just don't expect me to wear fancy robes or float around like you do." Nahara smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, unsure and quiet, but it was real. In the darkness of the desert night, a genie who had been nothing but a servant for centuries began to feel something new. Hope. The next morning, the desert was calm. A soft breeze passed over the dunes, and the suns were just rising above the horizon. Jordan woke up early and stepped outside his small tent, stretching his arms and yawning. To his surprise, Nahara was already awake. She stood a few meters away from the camp, barefoot on the sand, her eyes fixed on the glowing sky. The wind played with her silver hair as she stood silently, as if she was listening to something only she could hear. Jordan walked over. "Morning," he said, smiling. She turned her head slowly and gave him a small nod. "Good morning." "Did you sleep at all?" he asked. "I don't need to," she replied softly. "At least I don't think I do. I never had to sleep before, but I stayed up thinking." "About what?" Nahara looked away for a moment. "About who I am now." Jordan stayed quiet, letting her speak. "I was always someone else's tool," she said. "They made a wish, I granted it. Then I went back into the lamp. I didn't have time to think. But now, everything is silent. I can feel the air, the sand, my thoughts, and it's strange." Jordan nodded. "That's what freedom feels like sometimes. Strange, but real." Nahara smiled weakly. "Yes, real. I want to know what it means to live, not just exist. But I don't know where to start." "You already started," Jordan said. "You're here, asking questions, learning. That's more than most people do." Her eyes met his. "Then will you keep helping me?" "Of course," he said. They spent the morning walking through the ruins near the camp. Jordan showed her how he searched for old machines buried beneath the sand. Nahara followed closely, watching his every move with interest. She was especially curious about the broken technology. Her fingers touched the metal like it was part of her past. "You know what these are?" Jordan asked, pointing to a device half buried in stone. Nahara crouched beside it. "It's a message beacon. Very old. From the early colony years. I remember when some wished for things like these." She reached out and touched it. The device blinked. Jordan stared in surprise. "You fixed it." "I didn't mean to," she said. "I just felt the energy inside it. I guided it back." "That's amazing," Jordan said. "You're still powerful." Nahara looked down at her hands. "But I didn't use a wish. I didn't follow a command. I chose to help you." "That's the difference," Jordan said. "Now, it's your choice." They walked back to the camp as the sun climbed higher. Jordan placed the beacon on his worktable, excited to see what signals it might still hold. But far away, in the deep desert, someone else had noticed. High above the dunes, a small drone floated silently. Its lens zoomed in, capturing images of Nahara and Jordan walking together. Inside a dark ship hovering in the upper atmosphere, a figure in black robes watched the feed. His eyes narrowed. "She's free," the man said coldly. "The lamp has been broken." Behind him stood others, tall, armored beings with masks that hid their faces. "Shall we retrieve her, Commander?" one of them asked. The commander nodded. "Prepare a team. We cannot allow a free Genie to roam the galaxy. If she refuses to return, we will take her by force." The ship turned slowly, setting its course toward the planet's surface. Back at the camp, Jordan and Nahara sat beneath the shade of the tent. She was looking through an old star map he had found. "So many worlds," she whispered. "I've never visited even one." "You will," Jordan promised. "There's still time. Maybe we can leave this place together one day." Suddenly, Nahara's body stiffened. Her head snapped up. Her eyes darkened. "What is it?" Jordan asked quickly. I felt something, she said. A watcher. A presence. Jordan grabbed his scanner and turned it on. The screen flickered, then picked up a weak signal. Metal movement in the distance. We've got company. Nahara stood up. Her calm expression had changed. She looked alert, almost afraid. They're coming for me, she said. The ones who created my kind. They won't stop until I'm in chains again. Jordan clenched his fists. Then we'll stop them. You don't understand, Nahara said. They are powerful, and they won't care about you. They'll destroy anything in their way. Then they'll have to go through me, Jordan said. Nahara stared at him. She saw no fear in his eyes, only courage. A human with no powers, no armor, no army, yet he stood beside her without hesitation. For the first time in centuries, she didn't feel like a tool or a prisoner. She felt protected, and something inside her began to change. The wind had grown stronger. Sand lifted from the dunes and danced in the air, as if the desert itself could feel that something dangerous was coming. Jordan tightened the straps of his backpack and checked the energy level on his old blaster. He passed over the dunes, and the suns were just rising above the horizon. Jordan woke up early and stepped outside his small tent, stretching his arms and yawning. To his surprise, Nahara was already awake. She stood a few meters away from the camp, barefoot on the sand, her eyes fixed on the glowing sky. The wind played with her silver hair as she stood silently, as if she was listening to something only she could hear. Jordan walked over. "Morning," he said, smiling. She turned her head slowly and gave him a small nod. "Good morning. Did you sleep at all?" he asked. "I don't need to," she replied softly. "At least, I don't think I do. I never had to sleep before, but I stayed up thinking." "About what?" Nahara looked away for a moment. "About who I am now." Jordan stayed quiet, letting her speak. "I was always someone else's tool," she said. "They made a wish, I granted it. Then I went back into the lamp. I didn't have time to think. But now, everything is silent. I can feel the air, the sand, my thoughts. And it's strange." Jordan nodded. "That's what freedom feels like sometimes. Strange, but real." Nahara smiled weakly. "Yes, real. I want to know what it means to live, not just exist. But I don't know where to start." "You already started," Jordan said. "You're here, asking questions, learning. That's more than most people do." Her eyes met his. "Then will you keep helping me?" "Of course," he said. They spent the morning walking through the ruins near the camp. Jordan showed her how he searched for old machines buried beneath the sand. Nahara followed closely, watching his every move with interest. She was especially curious about the broken technology. Her fingers touched the metal like it was part of her past. "You know what these are?" Jordan asked, pointing to a device half buried in stone. Nahara crouched beside it. "It's a message beacon, very old. From the early colony years. I remember when some wished for things like these." She reached out and touched it. The device blinked. Jordan stared in surprise. "You fixed it." "I didn't mean to," she said. "I just felt the energy inside it. I guided it back." "That's amazing," Jordan said. "You're still powerful." Nahara looked down at her hands. "But I didn't use a wish. I didn't follow a command. I chose to help you." "That's the difference," Jordan said. "Now, it's your choice." They walked back to the camp as the sun climbed higher. Jordan placed the beacon on his worktable, excited to see what signals it might still hold. But far away in the deep desert, someone else had noticed. High above the dunes, a small drone floated silently. Its lens zoomed in, capturing images of Nahara and Jordan walking together. Inside a dark ship hovering in the upper atmosphere, a figure in black robes watched the feed. His eyes narrowed. "She's free," the man said coldly. "The lamp has been broken." Behind him stood others, tall, armored beings with masks that hid their faces. "Shall we retrieve her?" Commander, one of them asked. The commander nodded. Prepare a team. We cannot allow a free Genie to roam the galaxy. If she refuses to return, we will take her by force. The ship turned slowly, setting its course toward the planet's surface. Back at the camp, Jordan and Nahara sat beneath the shade of the tent. She was looking through an old star map he had found. So many worlds, she whispered. I've never visited even one. You will, Jordan promised. There's still time. Maybe we can leave this place together one day. Suddenly, Nahara's body stiffened. Her head snapped up. Her eyes darkened. What is it? Jordan asked quickly. I felt something, she said. A watcher, a presence. Jordan grabbed his scanner and turned it on. The screen flickered, then picked up a weak signal. Metal movement in the distance. We've got company. Nahara stood up. Her calm expression had changed. She looked alert, almost afraid. They're coming for me, she said. The ones who created my kind. They won't stop until I'm in chains again. Jordan clenched his fists. Then we'll stop them. You don't understand, Nahara said. They are powerful, and they won't care about you. They'll destroy anything in their way. Then they'll have to go through me, Jordan said. Nahara stared at him. She saw no fear in his eyes, only courage. A human with no powers, no armor, no army. Yet he stood beside her without hesitation. For the first time in centuries, she didn't feel like a tool or a prisoner. She felt protected. And something inside her began to change. The wind had grown stronger. Sand lifted from the dunes and danced in the air as if the desert itself could feel that something dangerous was coming. Jordan tightened the straps of his backpack and checked the energy level on his old blaster. It was almost empty, but it was all he had. Nahara stood next to him, her expression calm but serious. They're getting closer, she said, her voice low. I can feel their presence now. Jordan looked into the horizon, but all he saw were sandstorms. How many? 3, maybe 4 ships, she answered. Small but fast. They'll land near us soon. Jordan knew they didn't have much time. We need to leave, he said. Can you teleport us? Or do any of your old powers still work? Nahara shook her head. Not in the same way. When I became free, I lost many of my magical limits and my magical tools. But I still sense energy, and I can bend small things. Then we'll have to run on foot, Jordan said. There's an old canyon 2 kilometers east. If we can reach it, we can hide. Without wasting another second, they packed what little they could and moved quickly across the dunes. The wind howled louder now, and the air was filled with static. Something unnatural was coming. Behind them, the sky turned dark. High above, 3 black ships broke through the clouds, quiet as shadows. Each ship had strange markings on the side, symbols of the Lamplords, the ancient group that once controlled genies like Nahara. Inside the lead ship, the commander stood at a control panel, watching the 2 figures on the ground. Target located, the soldier beside him said. Should we engage? Not yet, the commander replied. Let the desert wear them down first, then we strike. Jordan and Nahara reached the edge of the canyon just as the sun began to set. The canyon walls were steep and jagged, offering good cover from the air. They climbed down carefully, finding a small hollow between the rocks where they could hide. Jordan sat down, breathing heavily. They're not normal hunters, are they? No, Nahara said. They are trained to capture creatures like me. They know my powers and my weaknesses. Then we'll need to be smarter than them. Nahara looked at him. You're calm, even now. Jordan gave a small laugh. Not really. I'm scared. But being scared doesn't mean I give up. She smiled faintly. You're different, Jordan. Most people ran from me or used me. You protect me. I don't like bullies, he said simply. They sat in silence for a while, the sky above turning deep purple as night approached. Suddenly, Nahara's eyes widened. They're here, From above, a light beam cut through the canyon, sweeping over the rocks. One of the Lamplord ships had arrived. A squad of armored soldiers descended from it, their boots slamming into the ground with a thud. Their armor was smooth and black, their faces hidden behind metal masks. "Scan the area," one of them ordered. "She cannot escape." Jordan motioned for Nahara to stay quiet. They crouched deeper into the rocky hollow, barely breathing. One wrong sound, and they'd be found. But just when it seemed they might stay hidden, one of the rocks near Nahara shifted and fell with a soft crack. The sound echoed. The soldiers turned. There. Jordan grabbed Nahara's hand. "Run." They sprinted through the canyon, the sound of boots and shouting behind them. The laser blast hit the wall near Jordan, sending sparks flying. Nahara stopped and raised her hands. The rocks ahead shimmered slightly and began to bend. Not break, but shift, just enough to form a narrow path through the canyon wall. "This way," she called. Jordan followed her through the passage. The Lamplords tried to chase, but the rocks shifted again, closing the gap just as the soldiers reached it. They were safe, for now. Breathing hard, they found another place to rest deeper in the canyon. The sound of the soldiers' voices faded in the distance. "You still have some power," Jordan said, amazed. "Very little," Nahara said, "but I will use everything I have to keep us safe." Jordan looked at her with pride. "We'll find a way. Together." Nahara nodded, but her face was troubled. "They won't stop, Jordan. The Lamplords, they want me back because I am proof that Genies can break free. If others learn I'm free, more will rise." "Then we need to let the galaxy know," Jordan said. "Tell your story. Show them you're not a tool. You're alive. You're someone." For a long moment, Nahara looked at him. Her heart felt something she had never known before. Not duty, not fear, but something warm and unfamiliar. Hope. And deep inside, a decision was forming. The night in the canyon was cold. The air had a sharp chill, and the only sounds were the distant howls of the desert wind and the soft shuffle of sand underfoot. Jordan and Nahara sat close together in a small, sheltered area of the canyon, trying to catch their breath. Nahara was silent, her eyes scanning the sky. The dark shapes of the Lamplord ships could still be seen in the distance, their lights flickering in the sky like stars. She clenched her fists, frustration building within her. She had escaped once, but she knew they wouldn't stop. They never did. Jordan, on the other hand, was calm. Too calm, she thought. After all, he was only a human, a scavenger who had no reason to get involved in her problems. And yet, here he was, standing by her side without hesitation. He had made the wish that freed her, and now he was risking his life to protect her from those who wanted to enslave her again. Nahara glanced at him, sitting beside her with his usual quiet confidence. "You don't fear them," she said softly. Jordan shrugged. "I'm scared, of course. But I'm not going to run away. Not this time." Her heart fluttered slightly at his words, but she quickly pushed the feeling away. It wasn't the first time someone had shown kindness. But this felt different. With Jordan, it wasn't a fleeting gesture. He meant it. "You've been through so much," Jordan said, breaking the silence. "You deserve to live a life of your own. But if they catch you—" "I know," Nahara replied, her voice steady, but with a hint of sadness. "They'll take me back, and this time they won't let me go." "Then we stop them," Jordan said firmly. She looked at him, confusion in her eyes. "You want to fight them?" "We don't have to fight," Jordan said, "but we need a plan. We can't keep running forever." Nahara turned away slightly, her mind racing. She had never been free before. The idea of standing up to the Lamplords, of facing the ones who had controlled her for centuries, seemed impossible. But Jordan was right. Running wouldn't solve anything. "I don't know where to start," she admitted. "I don't know what to do without them controlling me." Jordan smiled, a warm and reassuring smile. "Then we'll figure it out together." Nahara blinked in surprise. She hadn't expected him to say that. Together. It was a word she hadn't heard in a long time. For so long, her life had been about obeying commands, granting wishes for others, never having the freedom to choose her own path. But now, standing here in the cold desert with Jordan, she realized something. She had a choice to live her life as she wanted, not as a servant, not as a prisoner. I want to live, she said quietly. Not just survive. I want to be free, to choose what I do. Jordan nodded. And you will. We'll make sure of it. The next few hours passed in quiet conversation. They shared stories. Jordan told her about the places he had visited, the things he had seen, the people he had met. Nahara listened, fascinated by the idea of a world that wasn't bound by magic, where people made their own choices. She had spent so long trapped in the lamp, following the orders of others, that the idea of being free to make decisions was still foreign to her. For the first time, Nahara felt hope, not just for her own future, but for the future she could share with someone else. As the night deepened, Jordan stood up and stretched. We'll need to rest for the night. We've been moving nonstop. Tomorrow, we'll head to the nearest town and find a way to hide. Nahara nodded, but there was something in her that didn't want to rest. She wanted to do more. She wanted to start taking action, to stop the lamplords before they found her again. Jordan, she said softly, catching his attention. He turned and met her gaze. What's wrong? I'm not sure how to explain this, but I feel different. Since I was freed, it's like I can feel more of the world around me. The sand, the air, the stars. It's like everything is alive. Jordan smiled gently. That's what freedom feels like. Nahara thought about his words. I spent so much time as a servant, I never realized what it meant to be free. It's not just about not being controlled. It's about feeling everything. Everything that's real. Jordan's smile widened. Exactly. You're not a tool anymore. You're a person. And you get to choose how to live. For a moment, Nahara closed her eyes, letting the desert wind wash over her. It was a small moment of peace, but it meant more to her than anything she had ever experienced. She was free. And for the first time in her life, she realized that she didn't need magic or wishes to be happy. When she opened her eyes, she saw Jordan standing by her side, waiting for her to catch up. He didn't expect anything from her. He didn't want her to be a genie or a tool. He just wanted her to be herself, and that was enough. We'll figure this out, Jordan said. Together. Nahara nodded, a soft smile tugging at her lips. Together. In that moment, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with him by her side. The lamplords might try to control her again, but Nahara was done being a prisoner. She was ready to make her own path, starting now. The next day arrived with a crisp wind that swept through the canyon walls, carrying with it the scent of distant desert flowers. Jordan and Nahara woke early, their night spent in uneasy silence, knowing the danger was not far behind. The lamplords would come for Nahara. It wasn't a matter of if. It was a matter of when. Jordan packed up their few belongings and checked his blaster again. The weapon was simple, nothing special, but it was all he had. Nahara, however, didn't seem concerned. Her gaze was focused, as if she was seeing more than just the desert around them. You've been quiet, Jordan said, noticing her distant look. I've been thinking, she replied, her voice soft. I can feel their ships. They're close. Jordan nodded. Then we need to get to the town nearby, as planned. But we can't just run forever. We need a real plan. Nahara paused, turning to him with an expression he hadn't seen before, a spark of determination in her eyes. I think it's time we stop running. What do you mean? I don't want to live in fear anymore, she said, her voice firm. I'd spent so long hiding, obeying orders. But now, I want to fight. I want to show them that I'm not their prisoner anymore. Jordan looked at her, unsure of how to respond. He had never expected her to say that. She had always seemed so unsure of herself, trapped in the fear of her past. But now, there was something different in her. "You want to fight them?" he asked slowly. "Yes," she replied. "Not with magic or power, but with something they can't control, our will. They've taken everything from me, but they can't take my freedom." Jordan took a deep breath. This was a moment he had never expected. Nahara was no longer the Genie who granted wishes. She was a person, someone with her own desires, her own choices, and she was ready to fight for them. "I'll help you," Jordan said. "We don't have to fight alone." Nahara's eyes softened. "You're the first person who's ever treated me like I'm not a tool. You're the first person who's ever cared for me without asking for anything in return." Jordan smiled, though it was a sad smile. "I'm just a human. But I know what it feels like to be powerless, and I know what it feels like to want to be free." They shared a quiet moment before moving out of the canyon and heading toward the nearby town. It wasn't far, only a few hours on foot. As they walked, Nahara's pace slowed slightly, her eyes scanning the landscape. "I'm not sure what will happen when we get there," Jordan said, breaking the silence. "But we need to be prepared. If we're going to fight the Lamplords, we need a plan." Nahara nodded. "I know. But for the first time in my life, I feel like I have a choice." The town they reached was small, a collection of old buildings made from metal and stone, built to withstand the harsh desert environment. It was quiet, almost abandoned, with only a few people moving about the streets. The inhabitants looked tired, worn down by the harsh conditions of the planet. Jordan led Nahara to a small cantina on the edge of town. The building was dimly lit, the air heavy with the smell of old food and smoke. The bartender, an older man with a grizzled face, looked up as they entered. "Can I help you?" he asked gruffly. "We need information," Jordan said. "Do you know anything about the Lamplords? The ones who control Genies?" The bartender's expression hardened. "The Lamplords, they got their eyes on everyone, especially those with powers like her." Nahara stepped forward, her presence immediately commanding attention. The bartender flinched but didn't look away. "You don't need to fear me," she said, her voice calm but strong. "I am not their servant. I am free." The bartender studied her for a long moment before nodding. They'd been sending ships to this planet for months, collecting Genies, bringing them back to their empire. "But I've heard things. There's a group, a resistance of sorts. They've been fighting back." "A resistance?" Jordan asked. "Where can we find them?" The bartender hesitated, then leaned in closer. "They don't advertise themselves, but there's an old shipyard outside of town. They use it as a hideout. If you want to find them, that's where you'll go." Jordan and Nahara exchanged a look. This was their chance. They could fight back. They could stop running. "Thank you," Jordan said, tossing a few credits onto the bar. "We'll find it." The bartender gave a small nod. "Be careful. The Lamplords don't give up easily." As they left the cantina and made their way toward the shipyard, Nahara's mind raced. This was it, the moment where she could finally make a difference, where she could show the Lamplords that she wasn't just a tool for their use. She was someone with a purpose of her own. She glanced at Jordan, who was walking beside her, his steps steady and strong. For the first time in her life, Nahara didn't feel alone. The shipyard was quieter than Jordan had expected. The air smelled of rust and oil, and the large structures of the old ship parts loomed like silent giants in the distance. The land around it was barren, with scattered debris from forgotten machines. It seemed like no one had touched this place in years. As they walked, Nahara's steps slowed, her senses alert. She could feel something in the air, a tension, a warning. The Lamplords weren't far behind, and they had no idea how long they could remain hidden. Jordan noticed her change in posture and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "Are you all right?" he asked. Nahara nodded, but there was a deep concern in her eyes. "We're close," she said softly. I can feel them. The Lamplords will come soon. I need to be ready. Jordan looked at her, his expression determined. We will be. We're not running anymore. They reached the entrance of the shipyard, a rusted gate that creaked as they pushed it open. Inside, they found a network of narrow alleys between the metal structures. There was no sign of the resistance yet, but the silence told them that something was happening. Jordan motioned for Nahara to follow him, moving carefully through the shadows. They reached the back of the largest structure, where a small group of people were gathered. They looked like regular civilians. No one wore armor or carried weapons, but there was a sense of purpose in the air. A man stepped forward to greet them, his face weathered but strong. You must be the ones we've heard about, he said, his voice steady but curious. I'm Jordan, he said, offering a handshake. And this is Nahara. We've come to help. The man glanced at Nahara, his eyes scanning her with interest. I've heard rumors about a free Genie, but I never thought I'd meet one. You're brave, coming here. The Lamplords will stop at nothing to take you back. Nahara met his gaze. I'm done hiding. I want to help you fight them. We all deserve to be free. The man nodded, his expression serious. We've been waiting for someone like you. Someone with power, someone who knows what it means to fight for freedom. Jordan stepped forward. We need a plan. We can't wait for them to come to us. We need to take the fight to them. The man thought for a moment, then turned to the group of people behind him. They began discussing strategies in low voices, their faces lit by the dim glow of a nearby energy lamp. Nahara stood beside Jordan, her mind racing with possibilities. She could feel the strength of the resistance, ordinary people, but with determination in their eyes. And now, with her power and Jordan's courage, they might actually stand a chance. The plan was simple. They would sabotage the Lamplord ships before they could launch an attack. The resistance had already gathered information on the Lamplord's movements, and they knew that the ships would land at a nearby military base for refueling. It was the perfect opportunity to strike. Jordan and Nahara, along with a few of the resistance members, set out toward the military base under the cover of night. The stars above them were bright, but the darkened land around them seemed like a void, silent and empty. As they moved closer to the base, Nahara felt her heart race. The Lamplords were close. She could sense their presence. We need to be fast, she whispered to Jordan. Once we're inside, there's no turning back. Jordan gave her a reassuring smile. We'll do this together. When they reached the base, they split into smaller groups to plant explosives and disable the power grid. The resistance worked quickly, moving in and out of shadows like ghosts. Nahara used her ability to sense energy, guiding them to weak points in the base's security. Jordan kept a lookout, his eyes constantly scanning for any signs of movement. After what felt like hours, they were ready. Nahara and Jordan stood together near the main control room, a place where the Lamplords would be coordinating their attack. Nahara could feel the intensity of the energy within. This was the heart of the operation. Are you sure about this? Jordan asked her, his voice low. Nahara nodded. There's no going back. We do this, and they'll never control me again. They'll never control anyone again. She stepped forward, ready to make the final move. She reached out with her energy, carefully manipulating the wires and circuits inside the control room. The room hummed with power as she focused, her hands trembling with the effort. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed in the distance. The base shook, and the ground beneath them trembled. Nahara's heart raced. They're here, she said, her voice filled with urgency. We have to finish this now. Jordan grabbed her hand. Do it. Now. With a final push, Nahara released the last burst of energy, shutting down the entire base's systems. The lights flickered and went out, leaving only the sound of distant explosions and chaos. We did it, Jordan said, his voice filled with relief. But Nahara's eyes were already scanning the horizon. It's not over. Not yet. From the distance, she could see the Lamplord ships coming in fast, their lights cutting through the darkness. They had been delayed, but they were still coming. And this time, they would come for her.